Welcome to SMEX Ed. Class is in session.
I'm your host, Amanda King, and I'm here to teach anybody who wants to fucking listen how to have the audacity to say fuck it to societal standards and live their most authentic life. This podcast is dedicated to bringing the sexual conversations we have behind doors onto the main fucking stage. Because sex, masturbation, squirting, guess what? It is all normal. And by bringing these conversations to the forefront, we help people feel less alone in this world. We help them feel safe. We help them gain their power back. We help them step into their confidence and express themselves sexually in this world unapologetically. Because it takes fucking audacity to be your truest self. And we have a boatloads of audacity all up in this bitch. So let me ask you this. Are you ready for some epic shit?
Hello, everybody. I'm super excited to be here today, and I am going to do another answering questions that I receive in the DM because I thought this one was a really great question and it tied in with a lot that I have been speaking with women about personally while attending a bunch of networking events over the last 2 weeks. So this person says, "Hi, love. I've been struggling with feeling shame with my sexuality, and I just wanted to know if there are any pointers or things that help you get past the feelings of shame. Also, I will say my family is very religious and not exactly supportive of my lifestyle. I haven't explained it to them about my lifestyle, but they are extremely nosy, but not even sure if I want to go down this road with them. I'm just kind of all over the place with my feelings, and I have no one around me that I can air out my feelings to about all of this. And I always really breaks my heart when I get messages like this because I think that so many women in this world feel like we're alone struggling with this. And as I've been attending networking events and getting the opportunity to start conversations with a lot of women over the last 2 weeks, and when they find out what I do, it kind of is the same conversation over and over again. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in there is this struggle that women are facing in modern day life where they want to be these sexual beings. They want to be these sexual creatures. They want to own and embrace their sexuality, but there are so many things that are keeping them from doing it. It is the fact that other people are going to find out, or it is the fact that people might not understand what they're doing, or it's the fact that they don't feel comfortable or are scared of all of the feedback that they're going to receive from family members and friends. And I even had a woman today at the event that I was at a women's entrepreneur event this morning. And she said, "I love what you're doing." She said, "About 2 years ago, I got boudoir photos done and I love them. And I thought they were so empowering. And the photographer wanted to use some of my images for her website and just to like showcase the style." And she said, "I went through all of the images and only would allow her to use the images that didn't show my face." And she goes, "Because I am a sexual being and I am a sexual creature, but I can't let people know that because I am a president of a company and I've been the president of a company for 10 years. And if people see that side of me, I fear that they're not going to take me seriously anymore because society has made women not be able to be sexual and intelligent or sexual and powerful. It is either or, right? And so when women start learning or wanting to express their sexuality, there's so much shame in it because society makes us believe that the only way that we're allowed to be sexual is if we are sexual for a specific person, aka our partner, typically in a patriarchal society, a man, right? You can be sexy so that your husband finds you sexy or that it turns on your husband, but you cannot be sexy when other people are around. You cannot be considered sexy to other people. That is only reserved for your partner. And so we get this huge layer of shame and guilt when it comes to owning our sexuality as women because every time we own our sexuality, we have to struggle with, can I be sexual and can I be intelligent? What are people going to think? What are people going to say? How am I even going to bring this subject up with my family and my friends? And how am I even really going to look inside and decide this is the moment that I want to embrace this? And it's not your fault if you were struggling with this and feeling all this shame with guilt, shame and guilt when it comes to your sexuality and being expressive in it in whatever way, shape, and form that means to you. Maybe that is going outside and saying, I desire something, that it doesn't even need to be sexual, but that's expressing yourself, right? Or it's expression through photography, it's expression through videos, it's expression for whatever you want. There is so much shame in just women owning their power and owning their voice in this society, because we are not meant to do so. We are brought up in a society that very much focuses on keeping women small and boostering up men. And although we have come a very far, far way, we still have so much further to go when it comes to this. And even when women try to bring up this topic of like, hey, women struggle expressing their sexuality because of this. And anytime, especially you say the patriarchy, men don't want to hear it. They flip out. I just literally read a comment about one of my reels where I was saying like female pleasure is taboo, and it shouldn't be taboo, but we are brought up in a patriarchal society that focuses on male pleasure rather than female pleasure. And of course, you get 9 comments from men who are like, women need to just stop bitching. If you can't figure out how to have an orgasm, that's your own problem. Stop blaming it on men and what we do. And it's just like, are you fucking kidding me? And so women, when they start owning their sexuality and start embracing it and trying to at least have the conversation with people around them, the world is so against it and so ignorant towards it that it makes women who feel safe in that moment to express it instantly regret what they were doing, because this world is against you. And I say that, and I'm kind of mirroring, I think, what I was saying last podcast episode, of the fact that like, I don't want to make you feel defeated when I say this. I don't want you ladies to sit here and listen to my episodes and think like, what the fuck is the point of this? If we are built up in all of this societal and all this societal and generational and religious conditioning, and we are damned if we do and we are damned if we don't, what's the point of even fighting? That's the exact point of fighting, right? It shouldn't be like that. Women shouldn't have to fear their bodies. We shouldn't have to hit so many obstacles. We shouldn't receive such negative feedback when we are just trying to find our voices and find our level of expression, no matter what that is, whether it's sexual or not. But the world sets us up in this way to just make us constantly fear our own power. And that's what it comes down to. Women are the most powerful, innately intuitive beings on this planet. And if we all trusted what we were feeling was normal, and we all trusted that our sexual expression and our sexuality was safe, we would become unstoppable and so unbelievably powerful. And that scares the shit out of people, because have you ever like seen what a woman can do in one day? She can change the world. She can move mountains. And so imagine that power amplified, because she sees her own value. She sees her own self-worth. She is unapologetic about being a sexual creature, will not let you objectify her at the same time. That scares the living shit out of people, because they're so stuck in this religious and societal and just generational conditioning that all of us are stuck in. And rather than sitting and looking inward and saying, okay, this person, this woman expressing her sexuality is making me uncomfortable, rather than sitting here and saying, what does that mean about me? What do I need to work on? What is triggering of this situation? And sometimes it can be triggering of jealousy, triggering of like feeling uncomfortable, just being triggered in general. What is it about that person that triggers me? Society is too scared to do that. So people will turn around and they will point the finger and they will say, you are the problem. I had a woman once DM me, and this is, or like replying on one of my stories, and this is like no shade at this woman whatsoever. um I posted a post of me in lingerie, and there were just a bunch, like usual, a bunch of men's dirty ass comments on there. And I can't help that. What I do go through is I monitor my comments. Every single time I post a photo, I'm on my phone for at least an hour after posting the photo because of the amount of just disgusting, derogatory comments that I receive from men. When they do that, I instantly block them. I delete the comment. However, I am one person, I cannot keep up with the amount of comments that are put on there. And a woman sat there and she saw that and she said, I almost unfollowed you yesterday because I saw your post and the comments by men made me uncomfortable. And I thought that was really interesting. And so I messaged her or responded to her comment and I said, I find that interesting. Why would you block me? Why was I the problem? What did I do wrong? I was just posting a picture that was super empowering, and they took it the wrong way and they ran with it in a way that made it look degrading, which it wasn't. And she said, I honestly don't know. It just didn't make me feel good. And I thought, well, she's the one who's posting it. It must be her problem. And the reason she responded is because I went on a story push the next day condemning basically those men who posted all of that shit and how it made me feel. And it made me feel gross and like how they should be held accountable for her actions. And she said that made her not block me. And I was like, why do we even do this to each other? Right? If one woman expresses her sexuality, the women around her should support her in doing so because you all know how fucking hard that is. But sometimes women are just as vicious, if not sometimes even more vicious than men when it comes to the female body and forms of sexual expression. And this is because internalized misogyny, everyone grows up in the same patriarchal society. And especially if you come from a very conservative or religious background, that is pushed, that idealism and that notion of women are meant to be one way and one way only is pushed upon you even further. And to question that sometimes is really fucking hard because I grew up in a very conservative family with very strong beliefs. And from a young age, I started questioning those beliefs. And what ended up happening, I ended up getting ostracized. Is that the proper word? Maybe bullied, manipulated, and to the point where I didn't want to say anything about it. I was grown up in a family that objectifies women. They still do to this day. And yet, if I wore something that was low cut or a little provocative, I was told to cover up. And it didn't, like, I wasn't allowed to be sexual, but everyone else had to be sexual. And then, but I'm only supposed to be sexual for my partner and not everybody else. And if other women's husbands look at me, it's my fault rather than holding them accountable, or I'm just doing this for attention, just like every single woman. If she shows any bit of sexuality, especially in the online space, even if she posts a fucking photo of her in a bikini because she feels beautiful and powerful, people will sit there and say, well, why are you trying to get men's attention? Who says she is? No one. She feels really good in that moment. She feels powerful. She's doing that for her. And we make it mean something it's completely not. Now, are there women who post? Maybe, but that doesn't fucking matter. What matters is that a woman is owning her sexuality. Why are we pointing the fingers and making her the problem when it is us who have the problem because of our own internalized misogyny? And it's something I had to address growing up in that style of in that style and that environment where women were competition and women were what's the word, they were trying to get something that I wanted, and ultimately we're all competing for men, right? So if that woman's prettier than me, I need to tear her down rather than build her up because it means something about me. It means I'm not good enough. And so when it comes to expressing our sexuality, we have to recognize all of the fucking lies that we are told from birth, whether it's from being brought up in a conservative background or a religious background, it all is a lie. And I don't mean to like slam religion at all or conservative views. I am just trying to say, our a big question I had to ask myself during my own fucking personal journey was, are these my beliefs or are they someone else's? Did I actually believe this in my heart and soul? Or is this something I heard that was given to me by an authority figure? And so I took that as it had to be my belief. And the second I started recognizing that, and people sitting here and saying, well, you can't like sexually express yourself, or masturbation is not good for women, or sex being so fucking taboo and we can't talk about it. And so everything needs to be awkward and everything needs to be kept behind closed doors. And everyone needs to be uncomfortable and everyone needs to feel alone because we can't talk about this. I started going through and just asking myself, do I actually fucking believe that? Or is that something my mom told me? Is that something my dad told me? An uncle? My grandparents? They were the worst. Like, who installed this belief into me? Is it my own? And if it's not, what is my own belief? And that's the scariest part, right? It's starting to recognize your own beliefs about sexuality and your own beliefs about life and your own beliefs and your own values towards things, especially when you have a family whose those values are completely different. But you also have to recognize that your family had the ability to live their lives and they have lived their life their way. That's their life. Good on them. This is your life. You get the ability to live your life your way. You don't need their support. You want it. And I was talking about this on Instagram yesterday. There's a big difference between needing and wanting support. We want our families to support us in every aspect of our lives. Do we absolutely need it in order to survive and in order to be successful in any type of means, whether this is a new career choice, whether this is sexual expression, whether this is expressing your sexuality and being fluid? You do not need their support. You need your support because you know what's right for you. Deep down in your soul, just take 5 seconds and ask yourself, what's right for me? You know the answer. You know what's best for you. And if they can't support you, then that's on them. And they will probably regret it one day, but you do not need their support. You want it. And I get that. I get that from the bottom of my heart. And like I shared this yesterday on Instagram as well. My family is not supportive of what I do. Some of them are. That's like not a full statement. Some of them definitely are. Some of them ignore it because it makes them uncomfortable and they don't even know how to have the conversations with me. Some of them talk behind my back. Some of them outright ask like why I'm doing what I'm doing because all they can see is pictures of me in my lingerie and they can't get past that, or they hear me saying the word masturbation or sex and they can't get past that. They can't see what I'm trying to do is just make women feel safe in their bodies and empower them to feel beautiful and sexy no matter what shape, size, color they are. I'm here to help people and they cannot see beyond one thing. And that's the one thing that makes them really fucking uncomfortable, which is sex and sexuality and just being unapologetic about it too. Because when you grow up in a family where you were constantly told to respect your elders and your elders are telling you you shouldn't do something and you're saying basically in a nice way, fuck off, I'm still going to do it. It causes a lot of turmoil, like a lot of, what's the word? Just in a way, awkwardness and uncomfortableness, but that doesn't mean it's not the right path for you. And I think that that's my biggest piece of advice through all of this is I get feedback and negative feedback every day from people online and especially like from family members, and they don't support me in what I'm doing, and that's okay. I don't really need their support. The people that do support me, my friends, my husband, those people are the people I want in my corner. If people cannot see that what I'm doing is genuinely making me a happy person and my life is so much more fulfilled and better because I feel that I can walk around in this world in full, authentic, like beauty. If people can't see that, that's not my problem. That's fucking theirs. And that's not your problem if people can't see that you expressing your sexuality in whatever shape, way, or form this is. And this can be dating someone of the same gender. This can be dating someone who's transitioning. This can be experimenting with the lifestyle, swinging, freaking polyamory, open relationships. Like, first, you don't need to tell anybody shit. And that's another thing that I think that a piece of advice I think I want to give to you is you don't need to tell anybody about your private life. Your private life is private. And I don't give a fuck if your family thinks that they own the rights to your life because they put you on this planet. No one owns the rights to your private life. You can keep your private life as private as you want. Talk to those around you who you can trust. If you don't feel like you said in your message, you don't feel like you have people in a circle like that, go out and find them. The internet is a beautiful and terrible thing at the same time, but what's really beautiful about it is it can help you connect with people in your area that you would never think of connecting with because you don't have direct access to them. It's not like you're going to run into each other at the supermarket, but the internet opens up this world of opportunity for people to connect and for people to feel so much less alone in this world, because ultimately that's what we all want. We all want to be seen and we all want to recognize that we're not alone. And so expanding outside of your reach and looking to the internet as a way to find people who understand your lifestyle, because ultimately, if you're not hurting everybody, if you're not hurting anybody, and everyone in the relationship is consenting to what is happening, then why the fuck is it anybody else's business what you do? It's not. It's your business. If it's bringing you joy and it's making you feel powerful and it's making you just love your life, why the fuck would you stop that? Because other people don't approve or other people don't understand. As long as it's not hurting anybody, as long as it's between adults, I will use that again, and consent, then that's what matters. We get so stuck in living our own lives based on everyone else's expectations and everyone else's rules. And we never stop to think, what if I just didn't do that and I just lived my life by my rules? What if I took these black and white, right and wrong rules and just played with the gray area? Because we forget there's so much gray area in between. What if I sat here and I thought, okay, well, I'm brought up in a conservative family who's very marriage focused, but I want to be in an open relationship, or I want to experiment with polyamory, or I want to not ever get married and I want to live single and just date a bunch of people when I want to fucking date people. That's all that matters. If you go to bed every single night and you lay in bed and you say, I am content, I am happy, I feel good, and I feel whole by myself, within myself, that is what matters. Fuck everybody else. And I say that with a smile on my face and like laughing, because it feels good sometimes to just say fuck everybody else. There is so many negative people in this world, and there is so many people who will try to drag you down when you try to step into your most authentic self. And all that matters is that you know what you're doing is right. People will not appreciate your authenticity. People don't. Even when I shifted from business coaching into sexual empowerment coaching, I wrote a giant email basically expressing that I just didn't feel good as a business coach anymore. It didn't feel authentic to me anymore. And it led me to a lot of burnout. It led me to putting my business first. It led me to my identity being completely wrapped up in my business. And that email pissed off a lot of my clients, a lot of them. They started writing things online, calling me all of these sorts of names. They were genuinely upset that I was shifting into sexual empowerment coaching, and they felt they were robbed of something because I said that I wasn't into it anymore. And that was just me being authentic. But people just don't want to accept authenticity sometimes. And that's not their problem, right? It's not my problem. It's not their problem. Like, they're allowed to have that opinion. They're allowed to feel those things, but only you know your true path. Only you know what's right for you. And only you know the evolution that you need to take in order to live a happy and fulfilled life. Because yeah, it pissed off a lot of clients, but also that was a very weird accent. I'm the happiest I've ever been. My business is not my sole life anymore. I have friends, I have people I go out with, I have a social life. I work out, I smile more now than I ever did before. I am not wrapped up into that world anymore. Um, and that's what matters to me. I finally feel like my life is fulfilled with what I am doing, which is helping people. And if people can't understand that, once again, not my problem. It's whatever's triggering them to get upset about it. And you will find that no matter what you do in this world, expressing yourself sexually, you're going to hit so many roadblocks. But I guess I don't know, reframe or maybe just thought processes that I'm word vomiting all over you this episode is, if you weren't meant to feel this pleasure, why would you feel this pleasure? If you weren't meant to experience pleasure, why do we have the parts to experience pleasure? Why does it feel so good to experience pleasure? And I mean this like in, yes, a sexual context where, touching yourself feels good and like different styles of sex feels good. But I'm also talking about this in like pleasures in life, right? Like, we make pleasure such a taboo topic as well because we are told as women that we're constantly supposed to be self-sacrificing, and we're not allowed to feel pleasure unless it's tied to a family event or with other people. We're not allowed to feel pleasure on our own, and that's so fucking unfair, because we are meant to feel pleasure. We wouldn't be on this earth to experience pleasure if we weren't meant to experience it. And all of this shame and guilt that comes around it are a bunch of ignorant fucking people who are so scared to believe that their body is so capable of pleasure that they take that pleasure and they villainize it, because we always have to villainize something. And if people feel really, really good and they feel good while having sex, they're especially dirty and they're hoary, right? They're trollops and they're all those things. But that's not what we are. We're beings who have this amazing capability to love, right? Just think of like how much love one person can give on this planet. That love is pleasure. Pleasure and love, they're the same thing. They're tied intrinsically together. That love is amazing. Why would we ever look at something as an act of love as a villainous thing because it involves two people's private parts? Because even if you're just having sex for sex, which you can, right? There's no shame in casual sex. There is still some intrinsic amount of love in that, because you have to trust that person that you are having sex with in that moment, because sex is intimacy. Intimacy is love. So if we weren't meant to experience all of these emotions, all of these feelings, all of this pleasure, why the fuck would we even be on this planet? Why would, when I twist my nipple, why would it feel good if it wasn't meant to feel good? Why isn't a makeout session in a closet with my husband something that feels good? It's supposed to feel good. Why should I ever feel shameful for that? Nothing should be shameful when it comes to pleasure and sex, because we're all meant to be experiencing it. We're all meant to do it, right? Sex isn't just about procreation. And you know what ends up happening? I talk to a lot of couples, and I know some couples who've struggled with infertility, and sex becomes a chore, right? Because they are trying to procreate so badly. And I feel so bad for them when this happens. And it is a struggle, but then sex becomes this monotonous chore that all of the pleasure gets taken out of it. And no one wants to do it anymore. And it's just like, it's not supposed to be that way. Sex is supposed to be something that you're experiencing with someone that you trust, and what am I trying to say? It's vulnerability at its finest, and transparency and rawness and realness, because there is nothing more raw and real than two people standing naked in front of each other, looking at each other, touching each other, teasing each other, tasting each other, and knowing that in that moment, it's just those 2 or 3 or 4 people, whatever is your fancy. We do not yuck other people's yums here. And so, to get back to the point, which I hope I'm reaching, I'm kind of just channeling all this, so I hope this is making sense. Um, but it's just, fuck the shame. And I know that's so much easier to say than do, to sit here and say, okay, well, I'm not going to feel guilty. And so I'm going to go do this. I think that there is a level of awareness that actually, after the event, if you feel guilty, start asking yourself, why? Why did I just feel guilty because of that? What about that made me feel dirty? Because that's what it innately is, right? It makes us feel like we're doing something wrong. I remember growing up, no one taught me about orgasms. My parents never gave me the sex talk. And so the first few orgasms I started having, I'll never forget the first one I remember having. I was like dating this guy in like 8th grade, and we were just like kind of, I was what, straddling him, I guess, on like a friend's stairs, and we were talking, and like the friction felt good. And I like had an orgasm, and I didn't even know what was going on with my body. Like I knew that I felt really flushed and it felt really good. And then afterwards I was like, what just happened? And there was so much guilt because I was like, what the fuck? And that's all because of miseducation, because no one told me what was going on with my body. So for the longest time afterwards, anytime I would be like with my high school boyfriend, I remember this so much. If I would get close to an orgasm, I would stop him. And then after, I would feel so guilty and so dirty and so shameful. Like that wasn't something I was supposed to experience. I didn't start masturbating until I was in my probably mid to late 20s because of this. And it always made me feel dirty. Even after sex with steady boyfriends, I would feel dirty if I almost had an orgasm, or I would stop myself from having an orgasm. And that was just because growing up, sex is dirty, right? And it's shameful, and it's something that should be hidden behind doors and not spoken about. And if we all just start talking about it a little bit more, it makes it less taboo, and it makes people feel less alone, because you're not alone in this struggle of expressing your sexuality and really struggling with guilt and shame, because we are always going to struggle with guilt and shame. And don't look at me and think I don't still struggle with it on certain aspects. Anytime, I try something new sexually, sometimes I have to stop and be like, oh my God, like there's nothing to feel guilty about. I'm safe in doing this. Why do I feel this way? Oh, because I was taught that if I did this, I would be a whore, or I'd be dirty, or this was disgusting. Or I just feel like it's weird because no one actually talks about it. And it's so sad when that happens, because it keeps so many women from exploring themselves sexually and what their bodies are capable of. And so now, when I'm in a solo session, particularly, because a lot of time I will do exploration first through solo play to make sure that I feel safe while doing it, because no one's safer with me than me, right? Even with my partner, who has provided an unrealistic amount of safety and support for me in the last 10 years that we have been together, I still try things on my own first, because I need that safety with me. And I need to know that I can try it and not feel bad about trying it. So I will explore on my own. And if I start to feel those feelings, ask myself, okay, where is this coming from? Like, is this my opinion, or is this someone else's opinion? And that alone helped me start awakening my own sexuality. And then something really kind of fucking magical happened. The more, and like I'm just starting to realize this like lately, like a very big reflection stage of my life, where, because I became so open to talk about this and discuss these topics, all of my friends started coming to me and talking about it. Friends that would never, like, I've been friends with these people for 10, 15 years, and they would never talk to me about sex. All of a sudden start coming up and asking me questions. They start asking me for toy advice because they've never bought a toy. Or I'm sitting at the bar this past Saturday with a group of friends from high school, and we're having conversations about sex right there because everyone felt comfortable enough to do it. And that was such a nice thing, because it's like we're all experiencing it, we're all going through it. And if one person feels secure enough to actually have the conversation, it opens up the doors for everyone else to kind of just talk. And I think that's what everyone just innately wants to do, is just talk about it, because it's buried so deep in our head and we struggle so much with the guilt and the shame that's associated with it, that the second you just get it out loud and say, this happened, and like other people are like, okay, that's fine, that's great, and no one's judging you either, that makes you feel so much better about yourself, and it makes you feel so much safer in your exploration, because you should feel safe in your exploration of your body and your sexuality and oneself on every level. You deserve that right to feel it. So if you do feel guilt and shame, know it takes time and it takes patience to work through it. Like I said, I've probably been on this journey for not very long. Y'all may have think that I've been on this like huge fucking revolution. It's been, honestly, I think 2 years. I think I started talking about it at the end of 2021, maybe the beginning of 2022. And it's been the most rewarding 2 years of my life on every fucking level, talking about it. But I still have so much further to go in my journey. And there are times where I struggle with it and with what society deems as right, and constantly questioning my own beliefs on things when someone says something and I kind of get taken aback by it, even if they're telling me about something that they do sexually. And I'm like, oh, like it kind of makes me go, oh, I haven't heard of that, or I haven't thought of that, or I haven't experienced that. It's made me stop and go, why did I just have that reaction? What was it about that that just made me kind of cock my head to the side? And then I sit there and I'm like, okay, let's explore this. And I will ask that person so many questions. I will ask them questions until I'm blue in the face, because I want to seek more knowledge, so that I know that after that conversation, I am forming my own belief system, and I am, what is it? Not unmantalizing. That's not even a fucking word. I am tearing down the walls that society has built around me about my own like conceived notions. Good Lord, I'm tired. And creating new, stronger ones that are my actual beliefs about life rather than other people's. And so if you're struggling with expressing your sexuality, moral of the story, every woman is on this planet. You're not alone. It's exhausting to be a woman and a sexual creature on this planet, because we're told that we're not allowed to be both things, right? We're not allowed to be a mother and be sexual. We're not allowed to be a woman and be sexual. We're not allowed to be a professional and be sexual. We have to be one or the other. And that's so unbelievably unfair. And our male counterparts don't ever have to experience that, because they're allowed to be sexual creatures because they're men and that's what they do. And it's testosterone and it's bullshit. And so if you're feeling it, I'm sorry. Know that we're all struggling every day with it. But the more we talk about it and we get out of our heads about it and then express it out loud, the safer we will feel with ourselves and with others. Thank you guys so much for being here. I love you all. As always, if you like this episode, feel free to share it. Send me a message if you really liked hearing it. If you were the person who sent this question, thank you. I don't know how many times I can just say thank you for feeling safe enough to reach out and ask me this question, because that's a really big fucking deal, that I can help you make you feel safe enough to express yourself to me, at least. So love you all, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to Smex Ed with Amanda.
And some parting words for you today. Remember this: no matter how hard society pushes you down, no matter how many times you fall, as long as you get the fuck back up, they can never stop you. You are unfuckable with. You will win. Don't allow this world to dictate how you show up in it. Don't allow society to make you bend the knee. Instead, make them bend theirs. And don't forget, if you like what you heard, Go on to iTunes and Spotify and leave your girl a review. Until next time, my beautiful people.